Imagine a boat gliding effortlessly across the surface of a lake. It moves without disturbing the water, leaving no trace of its passage. Now envision grazing animals moving across a landscape in the same way, floating lightly on the land. This metaphor captures the reality of well-managed grazing, which, far from depleting the land, actually enhances it. Unlike intensive crop farming that can strip the soil of nutrients and harm ecosystems, grazing animals, when managed correctly, can improve soil health, biodiversity, and ecosystem function. Let's explore how grazing animals float across the land, improving it through natural behaviors like fertilizing and selective grazing, and why this is so different from the impact of crops. Grazing animals, cows, sheep, goats, and others, don't destroy the land they feed on. Instead, they interact with it in a way that supports natural cycles. Like a ship floating on water, grazing animals graze lightly, moving across pastures without permanently altering or depleting the ecosystem. They nibble on plants, stimulate new growth, and move on, leaving behind a landscape that's healthier than when they arrived. This happens because grazing animals naturally prevent overgrowth by feeding on grasses and plants. Without grazing, grasslands can become overgrown, which smothers smaller plant species and reduces biodiversity. Grazing keeps these ecosystems balanced. As animals graze, they don't just remove vegetation, they actually stimulate plants to regrow stronger. Much like pruning a plant can make it flourish, grazing triggers new growth, helping to maintain a thriving and diverse ecosystem. Through this process, grazing animals don't exhaust the land. Instead, they float across it, maintaining and often improving the health of the landscape. One of the most beneficial aspects of grazing animals is their role as natural recyclers. While they graze, they leave behind manure, which acts as a natural fertilizer. This manure enriches the soil with organic matter and nutrients, helping to build soil fertility and structure. Manure from grazing animals adds essential nutrients like nitrogen and phosphorus back into the soil. These nutrients feed soil microbes and help plants grow healthier and stronger. The addition of organic matter from manure improves the soil structure, making it better able to retain moisture and resist erosion. Healthy soil with good structure is also better at storing carbon, making grazing animals a key ally in fighting climate change. As animals graze, they recycle the nutrients contained in the plants they eat, returning them to the soil through their manure. This natural nutrient cycling helps maintain the productivity of the land without the need for synthetic fertilizers, which are commonly used in crop farming and can lead to pollution. In contrast, intensive crop farming often depletes the soil of nutrients, requiring the addition of chemical fertilizers to keep crops growing. These fertilizers can run off into waterways, leading to pollution and damaging nearby ecosystems. Grazing animals, by comparison, help build healthy soil through natural processes. Grazing animals don't just benefit the soil, they also have a profound impact on biodiversity. In natural ecosystems, the interaction between grazing animals and the plant life they consume leads to a rich, diverse landscape that supports a wide array of species. Grazing animals selectively eat certain plants, allowing other species to thrive. This prevents any one type of plant from dominating the landscape, creating a more diverse mix of grasses, shrubs, and flowering plants that support different kinds of wildlife. The varied structure of the vegetation in grazed areas creates a range of habitats. Ground nesting birds, for example, thrive in shorter grasses, while other species may prefer the taller plants left behind by grazing animals. This mosaic of plant life supports a wider range of wildlife, from insects to mammals to birds of prey. As grazing animals move, they help disperse seeds across the landscape, either through their hooves or by passing seeds in their manure. This natural seed dispersal helps plants spread to new areas, contributing to the overall biodiversity of the ecosystem. By creating diverse habitats and encouraging plant growth, grazing animals are key players in maintaining the balance of life in many ecosystems. Their presence supports a wide range of species, making them biodiversity boosters in every sense of the word. While poor grazing practices can lead to overgrazing and land degradation, regenerative grazing turns grazing animals into powerful environmental allies. In regenerative grazing systems, animals are moved across the land in a way that mimics natural grazing patterns. This allows each area of land time to rest and recover, ensuring that it isn't overused or depleted. Healthy soils enriched by grazing animals can act as carbon sinks, trapping carbon from the atmosphere and helping to mitigate climate change. As plants grow, they absorb carbon dioxide through photosynthesis, and much of this carbon is stored in the soil, improving soil health and reducing greenhouse gases. Grazed pastures tend to have better water retention because the soil is healthier and more structured. This helps reduce water runoff during heavy rains, preventing floods and keeping the land hydrated during dry periods. By using grazing animals to regenerate degraded land, farmers and conservationists can restore barren or damaged ecosystems. Grazing helps rebuild topsoil, promote plant growth, and bring life back to areas that have been stripped of their natural vitality. Regenerative grazing is a powerful tool for restoring ecosystems, making grazing animals essential partners in the fight against climate change and environmental degradation. Grazing animals, much like ships floating on water, interact with the land in ways that improve its health rather than deplete it. Through natural behaviors like fertilizing, selective grazing, and soil aeration, these animals help maintain the balance of ecosystems and support biodiversity. In contrast, intensive crop farming often leaves the land worse off, with depleted soils, eroded landscapes, and reduced biodiversity. By understanding the benefits of well-managed grazing, we can see that animals are not only part of the landscape, but active stewards of the environment. When managed properly, grazing animals don't just float across the land, they help it thrive. Grazing animals are not the land-consuming force they're often portrayed to be. Like ships floating on water, they graze across the land, contributing to its health and vitality without depleting its resources. Through practices like regenerative grazing, these animals can help restore ecosystems, improve soil health, and promote biodiversity, all while working in harmony with the natural world. By understanding the positive role that grazing animals play, we can move toward more sustainable agricultural practices that enhance, rather than harm, the environment. Grazing animals, when managed with care, are not just part of a functioning ecosystem. They are key to making it thrive.